What is going on YouTube? This is Jim, back with another video, and today I want to give you guys my initial impressions on Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, as you guys may or may not know, I had a love-hate relationship with the first. I definitely like the second one, although the pacing is a little suspect. Now, I know Rockstar has been criticized for the crunch and for making their guys work incredibly long hours to polish this game, but it absolutely shows. And I feel as if they took the game's tempo and they cranked the dial down just a little bit more than most games to make sure you had to appreciate and enjoy all the graphic detail and world building that was put into this game. Very, very simple tasks take a long time to do. You can't run through your camp, for example. Yes, you can fast walk, but you cannot run through your camp. When you go to interact with an object, your character, Arthur, who is an absolute badass, by the way, very slowly interacts with things. When he goes to sit on the bed, he kind of looks at it, then he turns around, puts his hand down, kind of leans back. That whole animation takes a very long time. It's a great animation, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I feel like I'm watching a movie in slow motion. And because of that, I feel that the game pacing suffers slightly. Now, I've read, and I don't know because I've only put in about maybe 15 hours or so now, that the game can last anywhere from 60 to 100 hours. And if that is true, then I would say Rockstar's done a great job of taking a 30-hour game and making it into a 60 or 70 or 100-hour game. Based slowly, that's actually true, based on how slow it is. That's a little frustrating, but when you kind of accept that this is going to be a slower paced game, there's going to be some pretty heavy dialogue stuff that you get early on, a lot of exposition on kind of who you are and why you are, really painting that picture. Once you're finally free to go off and do what you want, I love that the game doesn't indicate whether things are side missions or main missions. Just there are things you have to do in the world. Sometimes you'll stumble across people and they'll give you a quest or an adventure to go on. Sometimes it's very clear on the map, like go here and talk to this person, they're going to give you something to do. But there's absolutely no shortage of things to do, from hunting to just exploring to robbing people to doing missions for your camp. And I'm loving every bit of it. So detail aside, it is by far the prettiest Xbox One X game I have ever played. I would say that, you know, Spider-Man and God of War really had amazing graphics. But this is just the next level. This is, to me, it's uncomparable. Not to take away from Spider-Man, I loved it. It's definitely a Game of the Year candidate, in my opinion, but this is next level stuff. The attention to detail, like I was mentioning before, is ridiculous. I've never seen such lifelike foliage, the way that the hair moves on an animal, the way as you walk through snow, it slowly kicks up. They really spent a long time on the polish phase. And it shows, and I think the game is great for that. They're just going to make sure you enjoy it too. They're going to force you to do so. But the last piece I wanted to address is kind of like a counterpoint to some other critics' reviews that I have seen in regards to decision making, whether or not you get to play as a good guy or a bad guy. There is a morality system in the game. There's a meter that is at the bottom of the screen when you make a decision that's indicative if you did something that's considered honorable or something that's dishonorable. Regardless of which choice you make, you are still in a gang. Your loyalty is to the gang. And you, in your character's motivation, is to rob and steal and kill and murder and all those things. That's actually the same thing. Rob, steal, murder. Okay. I said the same thing twice, but my point is, you don't care about your morals. You don't care about anything. All you care about is making sure the gang survives. Okay? And you're going to do anything you can, and you're going to use anybody you can to make sure the gang survives just a little longer. So if somebody gives you a quest, you know, people would say, well, if you're just a bad guy, you know, just shoot them and take their money. Well, sometimes it leads to greater rewards, and you're using people to get as much as you can out of them. And it's only after you've kind of used them up do you really get that option to just take them out. And I love that, that you're forced to play as a bad guy. Yes, there are some ambiguous decisions in there that, you know, do you want to help the guy, the old lady cross the street kind of thing? That could be considered an honorable action. But if there's something in it for you, or if you think there's something in it for you, it totally makes sense that your character would do that. And I feel that a lot of critics are overlooking that point and saying, well, I was forced to be a bad guy and murder people. Well, you are a bad guy. You're in a gang. You're an outlaw. It's right on the box. So I find that criticism a little confusing. I could see if you feel against that, like you're like, oh, I don't want to be a murderer. I don't want to be a killer. I could totally see this game not being for you. But I think it's fun to be in Arthur's shoes, to see what he sees, to feel how he feels, understanding that you're going to use people to their fullest. And I think that really frames the game and your decision making a lot more. And even those ambiguous decisions really ultimately are you just trying to squeeze out every last drop of resources from people before you either off them or just don't care about them anymore. And I've seen that in a few different decisions that I've had already, where I've started to see impacts of what happens when you're a good guy versus a bad guy, and how you actually almost defend yourself to other people in the camp. Like, why didn't you kill him? Why'd you let him go? And it's your character kind of takes a step back, like, well, I didn't think it was a big deal. Maybe this will play into a larger narrative later. I have yet to see that redemption arc. It was very clear in the first Red Dead Redemption with John Marston, his redemptive arc. I have yet to see that redemption piece, if it even exists. It might just be a name of the game, you know. I think a lot of us are assuming that at the last second Arthur is going to become a good guy, and somehow, you know, he's going to get offed or whatever. Obviously, in my little experience, that hasn't happened yet, but we will see. And maybe it's just, like I said, maybe it's just a play of the name. Maybe there is no redemption. Maybe that Arthur is just an asshole, and that she's just going to murder, and, you know, he's going to live a ruthless life to his last second. A lot of his dialogue really is indicative of that, and the notes he writes in his journal are very indicative that he understands that, you know, his time is limited, and maybe in a sense a little regretful. It's hard to say. I don't know. It's still early on, but you kind of get a sense sometimes that he's like, well, you know, here we go. Got to go kill somebody because, you know, this is how we live. This is the life we've chosen. So we'll see what happens. But I wanted to give it a quick review and give some glowing praise for it. Absolutely a Game of the Year contender. I have to see where the narrative goes first, though. World building alone and the initial storytelling I've seen is phenomenal, but, you know, it might burn itself out later on. I don't buy into all the critic hype where it was 10 out of 10, greatest game ever. The media is a bunch of weasels, and we know that. And they really do glom onto whatever the hot thing is for those clicks. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, quick review, or I guess review in progress, rather, Red Dead Redemption. I'll probably talk about it again at some point if something meaningful happens, maybe when I beat it. There's a lot of games that I said I was going to do this for that I haven't completed. Octopath Traveler is one of those that comes to mind. So it'll be a while before you hear from me again. Unless you really want to hear my thoughts on it, maybe I'll do some funny gameplay video on it if I stream stuff and I find something, a glitch or something. But so far, the game's just run really well and look beautiful. It's a great world to just lose yourself in. And this might be one of those games where I play a mission or two and then I want to go do something a little more faster paced. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But there you guys have it, a quick look at Red Dead Redemption 2. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.